Hey y'all, it's Caitlin. So first off, I apologize for not doing like a intro and showing you the pop up close first. Uh, I forgot. I guess I was eager to start on the custom. But anyway, so I got this Rainbow Brite pop figure out of a Streamy Mystery box some months back, and I'm finally getting around to customizing her. Now, what I am going to be doing instead of customizing her into like a new character like I usually do, I'm pretty much just going to do a repaint of her. I thought, what would it look like if Rainbow Brite was like a rainbow goth instead? So we're going to be turning her into more like a dark version of herself. And I'm going to start doing it by removing the head. I'm taking steaming hot water and dunking the pop in just to soften the vinyl so that I can tear the head from the body, just so it'll be easier for me to paint later on. And before we go any further, here is my concept drawing of what I want this pop to look like in the end. I pretty much just, took the glamour shot and then colored over it with my app on my laptop. But you'll see I'm going to put a spider, draw a spider where the star is on her cheek, as well as put a few other little details in. Now, I wrote the word skull on her skirt because I was thinking about just painting a small skull on the bottom of it, but I actually ended up changing that later on, so you'll see that later on in the video. I used tongs to take it out of the water and a few dish rags just to uh, try to tear the head from the body, and it came out really easily, like you see. But the connector did not come out, the little round part. And if you guys saw my Captain Planet custom, you know that I prefer it when the connector comes out just so it's easier to put back in later. So I do put the head back in there, soften it up a little bit more so I can use my pliers to try to get it out. It wasn't very hard to use my pliers and to start the connector from separating, and then I just pulled for the rest of it. Yeah, obviously this thing is glued in here, so it does take a little bit of strength sometimes. There are some pops that I've had that it just comes out super easily. Others you kind of have to wrestle with, but this is an unnecessary step. You can just put it back in through the peg. This is just easier for me because you're not you're not going to damage the paint. It's not going to be any type of damage to the paint when you're putting this back on. If you did it without the connector, like with the connector still in the head and plunging the peg back through it, it could end up damaging the paint. Now, if you'll see here, I accidentally put the connector on upside down because I'm an idiot. So off camera, I did take that back off and switch it back into the correct position. The next step is to use acetone to take off all paint that I wanted to. Now this part didn't go as smoothly as I wanted to. I put some clear scotch tape over the eyes to try to protect them, but if you can see, I didn't do all that well of a job because the acetone I was using to get the star off her cheek ran and did smudge her eye a little bit. So that was a bit of a fail. And also throughout the entire process of removing the paint, and oh, by the way, you need to use gloves and a face mask. Definitely a face mask because this stuff is fumey. Very, very fumey. And the gloves is just so the acetone doesn't dry out your skin after multiple uses. But I tried to get the blushing off her cheek too, but I think that's actually stained on there instead of painted because it didn't come off. But anyway, I didn't get all of her hair off. I didn't get all of the paint on the costume or outfit off. But I figured, for the most part, it's going to be covered up with darker colors, or just pure white. So it didn't really matter. I would say that the acetone for this one was an unnecessary step, except for the few parts where I put red, because my red is very runny and liquidy. I tried the tape again, it still didn't work. But I would say, depending on what color palette you're using, this is definitely an optional step. Something kind of interesting to note though, when you're taking off the paint on these things, you really get to wonder why they make some of the decisions that they do. That blue is nowhere near that part of her head. That's the blue that's on her suit, but it's not the blue anywhere on her hair. But yet the ponytail, as you can see after you take off that yellow paint, is actually blue underneath. The rest of the head was the color they used for her face, the flesh tone color, but the ponytail was actually blue. So that was one reason why it was kind of hard to get it off because of the drastic difference in colors. Um, yeah, I just got what I could off and just said the heck with the rest. So I go ahead and start off with the black paint because obviously that's going to be the most prominent color here. Now you can refer back to that picture I showed you all at the beginning of where I'm going to put the black and the different shades of gray and all that. So I'm pretty much just taking right now a very small brush and painting all the blue on her outfit, including her skirt, the blue on her sleeves, the blue on her boots. Everything blue is getting painted black here. And this did take a couple coats because my black is so thin. Uh, and also because of all the little details on her suit, I made a lot of paint mess ups. But most of them I did not correct until the very end. I just went back. Well, you'll see later on. Uh, but I just saved all the paint mess ups, or most of them, for the very end. So if you see anything in this video, which you most likely will with me, it it will be mostly corrected at the end. So yeah, but this did take probably about 2 coats to get nice and opaque coverage. The line on her boots were so small that what I ended up doing, I took a toothpick and I mashed the tip of it on the table to break off the small point. That way it's more of a bristled edge. I could have used my dotting tool, but it wouldn't have worked as well. The bristled edge that I make on the wooden toothpick holds the paint a lot better than just a metal point would. So it's actually a lot easier to paint this way. You could still just use the tip of the toothpick or, a small dotting tool if you have it. I just find it's easier to use just a broken off toothpick when you're dealing with such a small line like this. For the head, instead of starting with the black hair, what I wanted to do is go ahead and lay down a base coat for the ribbon. So the ribbon, as well as a few other little accent points on the suit, are going to be, I don't know what happened there. Oh, I think I had some fuzz from the Q-tip. Yeah, I had some fuzz from the Q-tip when I was using the acetone left behind, so I had to use my tweezers to get rid of that stuff. I really need to start making notes of when I'm doing this stuff. But anyway, I ended up putting the base coat for the ribbon for the red accents on the bow first before I started painting the hair. And this was just because, again, my red is so thin. Obviously, that was kind of glued on there after I took the acetone. But, my red's so thin that it needs a base coat in order to really pop. And the only reason I put the red on there was so the color would pop. I didn't want it to be like Addams Family necessarily. I did want to have a few pop of color. And red and black is my favorite color combination anyway, so I figured that would be perfect. So I think it turned out well in the end. But yeah, I did end up putting 2 layers of white down as a base coat just to make the red stand out more, and I wouldn't have to use as much of the red runny paint. So using my angled brush, I go in to do the ribbon. Now, the hair itself was kind of tricky to work with because of the mold of it. It's a beautiful sculpt, a beautiful mold. But all the little cracks and crevices, around the ponytail and in between the ponytail was a little bit hard. So I tried to use my angled brush everywhere I could. I really need to get a new one because that one's getting a lot old. But I left the star in the middle of her ribbon white, and the actual ribbon itself I did go and paint some red on there. It took about still 2 coats to get opaque coverage, because again, my red is trash. But the red accents in the end, I think, turned out really well. I don't paint the others on until later, but I actually love this ribbon. The red, the red ribbon is actually one of my favorite aspects about this repaint, so I really, really enjoyed it. Referring back to the acetone problem here, you can see that very little of the outfit was ever taken off. Uh, one reason because again, uh, it was kind of difficult, and two because I figured it would work as kind of like a guide. I know it's kind of hard to say with, with my hand and the peg in the way or the connector in the way, but everywhere, I think that was the purple color that I took. I think it was either the purple or the green that I colored over. So I mixed together two separate shades of gray. I had one light gray in a bottle, but I mixed together two separate shades of gray. The first one is a darker shade with a little bit of black and a little bit of white mixed into it, just to create almost like a charcoal, just a dark gray color. The one in the next one over, the next paint pot over, I actually used the light gray, some of the black, and actually some purple to make a different shade. So you can see the purple in the next color, uh, but I'm pretty much just using her outfit right now as a color guide. Think of it almost like a paint by numbers kind of thing. And yeah, I did the purple. So I think it was actually a really kind of clever idea. Like, I'm sure most people would have thought of it right off the bat, but I'm an idiot. So, but yes, I used a very small angled brush or small tipped brush to go ahead and paint the dark gray onto the purple of her boots, sleeves, and shirt, including the little coverall, suspender, whatever you want to call the top of her outfit. If there was any ever purple on that, it's there. And by the way, I just now remembered the twink that came with it. I just put that in a box with my blind bag doubles and blind bag toys and stuff like that because I didn't really feel like repainting two at once. So it's just Rainbow Brite for this one. So, are you guys ready for the shock of your life? I actually made a mistake here. I know, that is so unlike me to make a mistake in these videos. But I wanted to change her skin tone ever so slightly. I wanted to make her a little bit paler to make the dark color stand out even more. I remember I had a friend in high school that was totally goth, and well, not totally, but mostly goth. And she always tried to find the lightest makeup that she could. So in a way, I kind of always kind of based this thing on her a little bit, because she wanted to look as pale as possible. So I ended up taking the peach, sun-kissed, whatever, sun-kissed peach, I think is what it's called, color, and mixing it with a little bit of white to make a new skin tone. However, it was way too chunky. My white has thickened with age, other like the complete opposite of my red and my black, and so has the sun-kissed peach color. So it turned out really bad looking. Like it just looked horrible. It looked like she belonged in a horror movie rather than like, the Addams Family's cousin or something like that. So, I think I ended up doing 2 coats of this before I found out or, just admitted that I fully hated this color. And I did rectify that later, and we'll get back to that here in a second. And here is that other color of gray that I mixed up, like I said. It does have more purple in it than I wished it would. But again, that just gives another breakup of color, so I'm okay with it. So I outlined or went over all of the green areas on her suit with that gray. And you might be able to see there on her chest a little bit the rainbow. I am going in and doing that with different shades of black and gray as well as I'm going along. Again, most of these are going to be touched up at the end of the video. After the purple gray dried, I went in with the ready-made gray, the light gray that I already had in the bottle, and went over all of the red areas. And that includes the suspenders on her outfit as well, you know, not just the sleeves and the boots. This is all going to be gothified by the end of this, I promise. Here's me painting around those suspenders, or painting these suspenders. I try to go a little bit, not really slower here, but a bit more precise, because on her outfit, you know, that's the first thing you see when you look at the body. You look at the torso area. So I did try to do my best there. Again, there were definitely areas where I had to go back and fix at the end. But that's one of the good things about working with paint. You can just go back over it later on. Finally, I got out my black paint and my wide brush and started painting the hair. The hair is one of the easiest things to paint. It's a large area. You can use a big brush. You can get it done pretty quickly. That's why I enjoy painting the hair. What I didn't enjoy painting this hair is like what I talked about when I was talking about the ribbon. That ponytail. It was so hard, even with my smallest brush. Looking at it now, the finished product, there's still some areas that when I look at that pop, I'm like, I missed a spot. So this is usually the part that I love the most, like I said, because it's quick, it's easy. I find it a lot more fun. But that ponytail, the sculpting on it is so good that it's too good. So I definitely had some problems working around there, but I got it good enough that unless you're really, really looking at the pop, you can't really see the spots that I kind of missed a little bit, messed up on. As you can see here, I did grab a more, let's say, smaller to medium-sized brush. To do the outskirts of her hair, just do the outline and the base of the hair, just so I would hopefully not get any on the skin of her head. Of course, there were some spots again. That's why it's so good using paint to go back over your mistakes later on. You can see kind of what I was talking about here. I grabbed my small angled brush to try to get into all the little cracks and crevices behind and underneath that ponytail at the base of it, right where the ponytail almost meets the hair, right on the left side of it. Like I said, it's just a complicated sculpt when you're repainting something. If I were to go back and redo this, I would have tried to remove the ponytail from the head, now that I know that it was a separate piece, because it was blue and the rest of the head wasn't. So, which I should have gotten that just from the feel of it, because it's not hollow. But, yeah, if I were to go back and redo this, I definitely would have tried to remove that ponytail prior to painting. And now I am breaking out the white paint, going over all the yellow parts of her outfit, as well as the parts of her outfit. Man, my hand's in the way. The parts of her outfit that were meant to be white at the beginning, like the bottom of her skirt and the top of her boots. Now, I realized that my videos, for anyone new, I realized my videos kind of go, you know, kind of around about a lot. You know, here's some of the outfit, here's some of the head, here's some of the outfit, here part of the head. I'm just showing it to you guys in the order that I do it myself. Frankly, it's just easier that way without editing it even more. So that's the way y'all get it. I also put, I think it was the middle part of the rainbow, which was yellow to begin with, so I did do that in white later on. The star on the rainbow, however, I later on paint red, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. The pop's in another room. And like we've stated before, I don't take notes during this thing, so I really need to start doing that. But I use my smallest tip brush to finish off the boots and the outfit with the white. So it was after the hair dried that I realized I really hated the way that the face looked. It was all like really clumpy with the paint. So I took it all off with acetone, the entire face, eyes included, off with acetone. And what I'm going to do what most artists do when they're painting. I'm thinning out the paint. Now, most people use water for this. I'm going to go ahead and use that paint thinner I just showed. Just because I bought it when I first started crafting, thinking I was going to use it a lot more. I only really use it when the paint's getting so old and so dry and clumped together that it needs it. But it worked for what I wanted here. So most professional artists will thin out the acrylic paint with water to make several thin coats. This will more or less eliminate any paint strokes as well as any lumps in the paint. And if you're going to paint professionally for like, customs for you're gonna sell or anything like that, I would recommend you guys do that. If you're doing it just for fun, yeah, obviously I just slap the paint on and go on, but this time I had to do it this way because it was just so bugging me, and it did turn out a lot better. After several coats of that new flesh tone, obviously, as you can see, I messed up the hair a little bit using the acetone. I was trying to be as careful as possible not to remove it, but obviously the outer edge did get it. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a paintbrush to clean it up, I'm using these sponge tips. The package says sponge tips. It's not a sponge, it's more like flocking at the end of it, and it's used for exactly what I'm doing now, making precise detail work. So this is what I use a lot when I'm trying to cover up any mistakes in the paint. It puts on, imagine putting on paint with a large sponge versus a large brush. A large sponge, if you just tap it on there, you're going to get more paint on the surface than you would be just a brush when using it. Plus, you wouldn't get the streaks that you get with brushes sometimes. So this is a lot cleaner of a tool to use when you're just doing your cover-up work. I use these all the time. They're not good for double use. They're not easy to clean. They're not meant to be cleaned. And that little tip can be bent, so if you want to get an angle on it, you can. So I would definitely recommend trying to find some of these. I said it in a video once what they were called, but I keep forgetting it now, and I don't have a package on me at the moment. So if I ever remember to go back and get some more, which I'm running out, I need to do it. I'll post it on my Instagram when I get a new package of them. And pretty much just because I already had it out and was using it, I go ahead and use that same tool for the eyes. I don't like to repaint the eyes on a Funko Pop simply because that little contour around the eye where it's molded on, not as easy to follow as you might think. I always end up getting one eye a little bit smaller than the other one, but I tried my best, and I think I did a pretty good job. After that, I decided to go ahead and put on the spider detailing. If you remember, the original Rainbow Brite had a little star on her cheek. I'm replacing it with a spider because why not? So I use a couple of my dotting tools. I use my largest or my second largest dotting tool for the base of the spider, the body of the spider. Just by putting a small dot of black paint on there, trying to make it more oval in shape than just a circular dot. And then taking my thinnest dotting tool and putting little dots, you probably can't even see them, away from the original dot to kind of space out where I want the legs to go. So all those little dots I'm making now are the end point of the legs, and then I just connected the dots pretty much using a curved line to make all the little legs for the spider. This didn't come out the exact way I wanted to. I wish I went over it with a pencil first. But you still can tell what it is, and I still really like it. So I still really love the fact that I just put that on there. And yes, I do wipe some of the paint on my fingers when I'm painting. It's easier than grabbing for a napkin. Your fingers right there, your napkin's across the table. So yeah. Now to go back to the body. I can't remember if it was before. Okay, yeah, this is it. So I went ahead, since I redid the skin on her face, I had to do it on her body as well just to match. So I did end up putting a couple different layers, or a couple multiple layers of the thinned out acrylic paint on her legs and her hands. So on her outfit, Rainbow Brite had 5 stars in total. She had one on the rainbow, on the end of her rainbow, which you can see me painting now. One on each of her sleeves, the very tip of it where it met the hand, and then the little buckle on her boot. I put a little drop of white paint on each one of those stars, again for a base coat, just like I did for the ribbon at the top of the hair. So instead of drawing the skull like I had originally planned, I felt like the little spider on her cheek would have been would have seemed a bit more in place if there was a spider web somewhere on her suit. So on the base of her skirt, I end up painting a small spider web with the white paint and my smallest tipped dotting tool. So spider webs is something that I feel very confident in drawing. Why? Because if you look back at all my high school notebooks, they're littered with them. I used to doodle little coffins and little spider webs and little skulls all over my high school notebooks and stuff. So yeah, I kind of went through that phase. And I still kind of have that phase actually. So I made 4 curved lines, as you can see, on both the front and the back of the figure. And then I went in with smaller lines and connected them just to make that classic webbed shaped pattern. So, like I wished I had done with the spider, I did end up sketching where I wanted the eyebrows to go on the pot, because I knew if there was one thing I was going to mess up, it would have been those eyebrows. Because you can never get them symmetrical no matter what. I also I sketched in a little little eyelashes on each of the eyes to replace them, like the original pop had. So, yeah, that's another reason why I prefer just painting around some stuff that's already there on the face. So I wanted to mess with that, but it was worth it for this pop, I guess. Then I simply sketched over everywhere where I put the little pencil marks with my smallest tipped dotting tool. Using that same dotting tool, I go in and repaint all the stars on her outfit the red, trying to be extremely careful of not getting the paint where it's not supposed to in those small little detail areas. But you can see the rainbow itself on this skirt is pretty much in grayscale now. So I needed some little color just to make it pop a little bit more. And I felt putting the red on the stars would be, it wouldn't be overwhelming and it would still look very, very pretty. So hopefully you guys agree. Just to add a little bit extra pizzazz, I guess you could say, to this pop, I ended up taking some gloss finished Mod Podge. I know you can't really see the label from the way I had the bottle turned, but it is gloss finish. Really, any kind will work, because I am going to go over this with the Mod Podge later in a minute anyway. But I used a popsicle stick to put a little bit of that in a clean paint pot, and then eventually I don't want to edit anymore than I have to. So hurry up and grab the glitter. There we are. So I grabbed the red glitter and sprinkled some into the container and mixed it in until I felt like it was pretty good. Now I'm going to redo my glitter video eventually, because I realized the nail polish isn't really that efficient. And if you guys saw my glitter custom, then you know what I'm talking about. Wasn't really efficient, and I haven't been using it lately, so I will be doing another glitter custom video eventually. But someone asked in the comment section of that video, right now it's still up from the time I'm recording this. I will delete it later on, but Someone asked if it would be easier just to use Mod Podge mixed with the glitter. No, because you would be wasting more Mod Podge and glitter, because you can see I don't use nearly as much of this as I made up. And second, it would make it look a lot more sparse. But that's the exact look I was going for with this particular custom. So you can see here me using a pretty excessive amount of that stuff, and you'll see after it's all done, it's really very sparse in glitter when it really comes down to it. It's not soaked in glitter, it's not necessarily a glittered pop. It's just accented in glitter, and that's the exact look I wanted to go with this. It just brings out that red just a little bit more to break out, or break down all that black color just to make it look a little bit better. And I use that on every spot where I put the red paint. After touching up all the paint, the last step really is just to glue the head onto the body with super glue. And I added this part in, even though it pained me to do so. I really love the rainbow base they made for Rainbow Brite, but obviously it doesn't go with that anymore. So I did end up painting the base black, a couple coats of it, and then added some more of that Mod Podge with the red glitter over top, just to add a little bit more sparkle to it. And here is the final 360-degree view of the Rainbow Goth Funko Pop. I will be adding some pictures on my Instagram after this video is uploaded, just to give you a few more close-up shots, because you can't really see like the glitter and everything in this video, but it's there, I promise. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. This is definitely kind of a different custom than I've ever tried before. It's essentially the same character, just in a completely different paint job, and I usually just take Funko Pops and make them into new characters. So this was definitely something a little bit new for me, and something that I very much enjoyed. I do have an idea for a whole different kind of Funko Pop custom that could come in the near future, so we're gonna keep our fingers crossed for that one. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot to me that these custom videos get the views that they do. So I hope you all enjoyed. Remember, like always, it's a community and not a competition. And I'll see y'all later. Bye.